A lot of focus on Kerry in the build-up to the game this evening, but from a Cork perspective, how would you describe the challenge that lies ahead?
Sure, it's a huge challenge. Look, we're playing the league champions and the favourites for the All-Ireland, and probably our league campaign didn't go as well as we could have expected. So, look, you know, we're coming in here to the Lions Den, really, into the cauldron to face a very, very good Kerry team. But look, we're looking forward to it. We've prepared as best we can, and we'll just see how it goes tonight.
We saw in the Division 1 League final what Kerry are capable of in terms of putting scores on the board. From a defensive point of view, how will Cork set up tonight or go about trying to stifle that Kerry forward line?
Look, it's not going to be easy. We know that, you know what I mean? They have, you know, probably 2 or 3 of the best forwards maybe that ever played the game, and it's going to be very difficult. But look, you know, we trust in our own backs, and hopefully that they will be able to do the business tonight. But it's not going to be easy. Kerry are very formidable, very good team, and you know, it's going to be a big challenge, but we're going to have a go anyway.
In terms of key targets for Cork, what will you be looking for from your players?
Well, like the first thing is that we want to go out and win the game. You know, that's as we stand here now, that's what we want to do, and everything else then, you know, goes into the background. Our aim coming here today is to try and win this game, and hopefully that you know, we can put up a performance and enable us to do so.
And finally, John, what will your last message be to the players before they hit the field?
It's the same as any team I'm involved in. Go out and give 110%, leave it all out in the field, and just see where it gets you, because if you don't, especially against good teams, you're going to be put back in the flat of your back.
Yes, the words of John Cleary there, the interim Cork manager. What a difficult task it is that faces his players in that squad this evening. We're meeting at Páirc. Rinn, the first time Cork and Kerry have met in Championship football here. Cork looking to upset the odds again and book their place in the Munster Senior Football Final. Well, it's a largely untested and inexperienced Cork side. Starting with the goalkeeper, it is Micheál Martin. He is in there behind a full back line, which has a little bit of experience in Kevin Flahiv. But it's really in the half-back line where they are lacking in terms of that now. It's 2 debutants in John Cooper and Rory Maguire. A massive boost in midfield, though. Ian Maguire back to take his place in midfield after recovering from a hand injury. And a late change, Sean Páirc comes in for Owen McSweeney. O'Rourke and Hurley have plenty of experience in what is an otherwise callow forward line. There's a first championship appearance in 3 years for Stephen Sherlock, while Cathal O'Mahony starts a championship match for the first time in the other corner. Well, Kerry's 15 sees 13 of the side that began the league final win over Mayo retained. Graham O'Sullivan makes his first championship start at corner-back, with 2-time All-Star Tom O'Sullivan in the other corner. Tyke Morley makes his first championship start in 2 years at centre-back, while the Nagale club pairing of Diarmuid O'Connor and Jack Barry are partnered in midfield. The 2 switches are in the forwards. Sean O'Shea's back at centre-forward, while there's a first championship appearance in 2 years for Tony Brosnan, who's named at right corner-forward. The Clifford brothers of David and Pody, both All-Stars in 2021, are at 14 and 15 respectively. Well, it's a beautiful evening, and some of the great and the good of Cork sport have made their way to Páirc Rinn tonight. Roy Keane popping in to have a look, Paul, early, and what we expect will be, if Kerry turn it on, a one-sided encounter, but Cork have shown that anything is possible in this rivalry over the years.
I wonder, is he on the panel afterwards, Mike? Here is dulcet tones. Yeah, look, what I'm looking for here is obviously Cork have taken a stand by insisting in playing in Páirc Rinn, and now, as the lad said in the build-up, they've got to show that unity of purpose in the way they played tonight. And I suppose what I'm looking for, and I think a lot of people are looking for, is to see if they have a solid defensive structure. They conceded, as Jim said in the build-up there, almost 20 points a game in Division 2, highest concession rate of all the teams in Division 2, and they cannot afford to be as open against a team like Kerry that scored almost 20 points a game in Division 1 and 12 goals over the 8 games that they played, including the final. So that's the first thing I'm looking for, and as the lad said, just an intense, high pressure, fast pace, disciplined performance from Cork early on, and keep the game alive up to half time.
It comes 10 months on from their worst ever championship defeat to Kerry and Killarney. Can Cork find their identity once again and reimpose themselves on this rivalry? As we stand at Páirc Rinn for our rendezvous. perfect evening for football on a very good surface as well. Our match referee, Brendan Cawley from Kildare, he took charge of Cork's Munster semi-final win over Limerick at the Gaelic grounds last season. It's a Cork team that have featured in each of the last 5 provincial deciders, and they've lost every one of them. Can they make it 6 finals in a row? The winners will take on either Limerick or Tipperary in the Munster Senior Football Final on the 28th of May. Huge crowd here at Páirc Rinn, and a smattering of Kerry supporters there as well. Cork fans not here in expectation, more so hope, as Ian Maguire, who wasn't expected to be fit for this game, gets his hands on the ball early and lets an early delivery in towards the inside forward line of Cathal O'Mahony. And he's won that first ball that's come his direction at the expense of the 2-time All-Star Tom O'Sullivan, and Cork will have an opportunity to take the opening score.
Well, that shows intent straight away. Once they won the ball in the middle of the field, won it on a break, they weren't trying to run it through the lines, they just kicked it straight in before Kerry were allowed to get their defensive structure set up, and it was a 1-to-1 contest and a foul on Cathal O'Mahony, so good opportunity here for Stephen Surlock.
St Finbarr's clubman, top scorer in Cork senior club football last season. That's a settler for him, and it's just the start that Cork would have wanted. Kerry going with the short kick out. And in it goes to Jack Barry, who's alongside his clubmate Dermot O'Connor in midfield today. Now Gavin White. Cork funneling all bar Brian Hurley behind the ball for the moment. Dropped by Tom O'Sullivan, but he's regathered successfully. Chasing him down is Dan Dineen. O'Sullivan, who went forward to kick a couple of scores in last year's Munster semi-final. And that's a really good block down. Excellent work. Well, that's just what they would have wanted from Sean Powter, bringing him into the starting 15, a man who's been beset by hamstring injuries, including another one earlier this year, which ruled him out of most of the league, and that was a really good piece of defensive play from him.
Absolutely, and as expected, Kevin Flahiv is gone man-to-man on David Clifford. Sean Powter is playing as a sweeper. He's playing very close in front of David Clifford. He moved towards Clifford in that build-up, but then changed direction, went back when Sean O'Shea got the ball, and a terrific block. He's the ideal man to play this role. He has good experience, good pace, reads the game very well.
Out in front of his man again was Cathal O'Mahony from Mitchelstown. Inside it goes to Matty Taylor. And now space for Kevin O'Donovan from Nemo here in Cork City to move forward. O'Donovan was looking for options. He got one in the guise of John O'Rourke. Himself and Brian Hurley, really the only players of any real experience in this Cork forward line. Across it comes to John Cooper, who had a decent league, his championship debut this evening, back from Maguire. It'll be interesting to see what sort of strapping is on that hand, under that glove on the right hand of Ian Maguire. Most of the players opting against the gloves tonight because it is very dry, it's very warm. Here's Maguire again. Into the space goes Cooper. Looking for a ball inside, he may take it on himself, Cooper. Dan Dineen made a run off him, and he's got it now, the wing forward. Back out to Stephen Sherlock, who ordinarily will want it on his left foot. O'Mahony, he takes it on himself. It's a pretty clean strike, but he's pulled it a little, and that's the first wide of the evening.
Yeah, and of course Cork playing with Sean Powter coming on for Owen McSweeney. Cork playing with 7 defenders. That will leave Tyke Morley. Obviously he's played as a sweeper for most of the league campaign. It will leave him free. He's just stepping in front of the full back line, and on that occasion when Cork had a slow build-up, he was just moving from left to right, you know, closing the space down, so forcing Cork to go out to the wings.
Here's O'Connor. So far Cork just allowing Kerry go with those short kick-outs. Brian Hurley's been dropping off and allowing Graham O'Sullivan and Tom O'Sullivan to get on the ball. Here is Bruno Begliuk. And Tom O'Sullivan looking to get forward again. Almost lost it with that. Another awkward solo. Now Jack Barry.
Yeah, Dave, and as we're looking here, every Cork outfield player is behind the halfway line, and this will be interesting to see. Obviously, they've crowded the defence, but how well they tackle Kerry when they're playing that running game.
Well, Kerry are breaking the lines here, and Cork have got in and around the ball, and there's a real scrap right on the ground there, and winning that scrap was Clonakilty's Maurice Shanley, and that will just get the crowd on their feet and give this young Cork side a real source and surge of encouragement. But they've popped it up again. Clifford gets it back from O'Brien. Clifford looking for the equaliser. Well, he didn't score from play at all in last year's Munster decider. It's taken him under 5 minutes to get on the score sheet here today.
Yeah, a good, as they say, counter press. I think they use the word in soccer. Cork worked it out really well. A brilliant shoulder there by, is it Diarmuid O'Connor? A turnover in the middle of the field. You just can't afford to turn over the ball to Kerry, particularly in the middle of the field with David Clifford at the end of it. Good response from Kerry.
Here's Rory Maguire. Can Cork commit bodies to this attack? This is the full-back, Maurice Shanley. And now Colin O'Callaghan. Got a call over his shoulder. John Cooper arriving on the scene. Leaves it for Dan Dineen from Kildamartra. And back for Maguire. Just one man inside, it's Brian Hurley, with Tadhg Morley sweeping across the edge of his own 20-metre line. Cooper again. Cork hold on to it. Dineen. Any drive of this Kerry defence. O'Mahony. Or Sherlock, rather. He's left it off for Maguire. And now Ian Maguire in midfield. Kerry looking to put pressure on the ball, and they put a bit too much pressure there. It's a foul by Jason Foley on the captain, Brian Hurley.
Yeah, again, slow enough build-up from Cork. There's no Cork player running ahead of the player in possession, trying to stretch the Kerry defence. They're mainly working the ball across the lines and getting players coming off the shoulder. That allows Kerry to have that kind of defensive 4 or 5 players across the 45-metre line to force Cork wide, and just a poor tackle on that occasion, and an opportunity here for Stephen Sherlock.
Sherlock will kick this one right-footed. Hasn't played for Cork since the Super 8s against Roscommon 3 years ago. Another well-judged effort, and Cork are back in front.
Good intensity, good play from Cork in the first 7 minutes of the game. They've just got to keep that pace up and forced Kerry to go long in the kickouts, as Jim said before the game.
That's the first one. They properly pressed up on Shane Ryan's kick out, forced him to go long, but Kerry have come away with it. Tadhg Morley had to be content with a place on the bench throughout last year's championship. Laid off by Paudie Clifford. Clifford inside to Brian O'Begliac. Now Stephen O'Brien. Loves to drive at defenders, commit them. It's Kevin O'Donovan tracking him all the way here, and forces O'Brien back out the field. Now Jack Barry. Across it goes to Diarmuid O'Connor. It's a clever run in behind by Gavin White, but all avenues towards goal closed off for the moment by this Cork defence that look at that moment well organised. Well, that looked a foul. It was right under the referee's nose, and it should be an easy opportunity for Kerry to draw level.
Yeah, Tony Brosnan did very, very well on that occasion, and again, good defensive structure by Cork, forcing Kerry to move the ball a little bit wide. But when you have the skills, when you have the evasion skills of players like David Clifford and Tony Brosnan, he was able to kind of manoeuvre his way, do a little bit of a sidestep, attack the goal, and then draw the foul.
David Clifford, he's already played in 2 finals this year, lost the Sigerson Cup final with UL, won the league final against Mayo and Croke Park, and looking to help his side book a place in the Munster final here tonight. So Micheál Martin in goal for Cork this evening, took over from Mark White. And he's going to go long. Kerry have more bodies around this ball than Cork have, and it's numbers have told here. O'Brien inside to O'Connor.
Well, there's a big area that they've got to work on. I think they only won 25% of their own kickouts in last year's corresponding game, and you know, if they're forcing them to kick long, they've just got to get numbers and compete very aggressively for the breaking ball.
Yeah, it is about the breaks. Whenever about the kick-outs being lost in the air, you have to get on that breaking ball first off. It's really good from Páirc Clifford, and he squeezed it inside that right-hand post. All 3 points for Kerry coming from the Clifford brothers in this opening 10 minutes.
And again, it comes from a win on the Cork kick-out. And, you know, we talk so much about David Clifford, but you have to recognise the contribution that Páirc Clifford made. He had a fantastic year last year, and again he was able to manoeuvre his way in along the end line there under pressure. And again, another loss in midfield on the Cork kick-out.
Well, it's cleanly won by Jack Barry. Tom O'Sullivan. He seems to have license to go anywhere on the field that he wishes at the moment, Tom O'Sullivan. Now O'Brien. O'Donovan again backing off him. O'Brien has such acceleration. He's such a purposeful carrier of the ball, and that's a really nice score from Stephen O'Brien, who was in and out of the team last season, but he started this game very well indeed.
Well, the challenge for Cork is when they lose on their own kickouts, they can't get their defenders back quick enough to put their structure in place, and that allows players like Stephen O'Brien, who was able to go in with it onto his right, out onto his left, back in onto his right again, had the space to do that because Cork weren't able to get their numbers back. Very good score from Stephen O'Brien.
Kerry were trying to press there, but Cork have found a little gap from which Kevin O'Donovan picked it up. Cork almost fouling the ball there through Maurice Shanley. Here is Cooper. Already you feel Cork need the next score. Once you go 3 or 4 down against this Kerry team, it's very difficult to cope. Now Maguire. Taken on by Powder. Maguire. Hurley is right up against the end line inside, but they haven't even attempted to look for him as yet, and that's really been a good play, dispossession by Adrian Spillane. He took it so easily from Stephen Sherlock. So having one turnover ball, Kerry looking to punish Cork here. Adrian Spillane. And that's not the effort he was hoping to come up with. Half blocked on its way through, and Cork survive. This is Dan Dineen. All the way back to their goalkeeper. A couple of turnovers apiece have been won by these sides, but it's Kerry that looked the most threatening. Dan Dineen. Sherlock will be mindful of carrying it into the contact again, having been dispossessed so easily a moment ago. O'Callaghan. On his shoulder was Dan Dineen. O'Callaghan wants it back and has it right through the heart of the Kerry defence. O'Callaghan. Referee considered blowing the whistle, and in the end he does, but it goes for Kerry.
He did very well. Gave the 1-2, ran hard ahead of the ball carrier, but I think he had an opportunity to kick the ball with his left foot and just carried it into traffic, as we saw there. 3 Kerry players, and got dispossessed.
Diarmuid O'Connor. Great run through the middle has been made by Graham O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan getting around Maurice Shanley. Here's O'Connor again. Into Sean O'Shea, who's been quiet so far. Wasn't even fit enough to start that league final win over Mayo. It's a good run from Gavin White. Cork have stolen it. And off goes Powder. Now, how many are they willing to commit into this counter-attack? That looked a foul on Sean Powder. And Kerry is so strong in the tackle, and Powder unceremoniously drags the man down. But Cork supporters felt there should have been a whistle prior to that for a foul on Sean Powder.
Yeah, the referee is letting a lot of hard hits go here. We can see here it's a shoulder, but I think maybe he was right on that occasion.
Here come Kerry looking for their 5th, and over it goes. The hand used by Sean O'Shea, and the lead is 3.
Yeah, again, when Kerry get a turnover in the middle of the field or get a free, they're just lethal going forward, and Sean O'Shea already having a good influence on the game.
Got 1-6 in the Munster final last year. That's his opening score this evening. Sean Powder's feeling the brunt of that shoulder he took, having slightly lost control of that ball.
Yeah, he just swiveled, tried to do the spin and roll away from the player, but engaged the tackler, and Yeah, there's a few hard tackles.
A lot of pain, Sean Powder.
Yeah, there's a few hard tackles that have gone in the first 15 minutes of this game here. He's spinning away here. There's the shoulder. Probably just marginally off shoulder to shoulder. But the intent was a shoulder charge, and he pulls him down there. Possibly a little bit lucky there, maybe not to get a black card, because the intent was to pull Diarmuid O'Connor down. Hopefully he'll be okay.
He'll be desperate to continue. He has been so unlucky with injuries to both hamstrings over the years. He's missed so much football, and at times considered whether it was worth continuing. It's a foul on Colm O'Callaghan, and the referee not happy with the manner in which Kerry just slowed things up, so he's given Cork an extra few metres and maybe brought it into the range of Stephen Sherlock. Quarter of an hour in, Cork yet to score from play. And he struck the last one with his right beautifully, Stephen Sherlock. This must be close to 50 metres from goal. He won't lack in distance anyway. It's just down to the precision, of which there is plenty. Really well struck effort from him. That's his third, and it's a score Cork absolutely needed.
Yeah, but as you said, Dave, they're relying on frees at the moment. 3 frees from Stephen Sherlock. Already Kerry have 4 forwards who have scored from play. Stephen O'Brien, Sean O'Shea, Foddy Clifford and his brother David. So good spread in the forward line, as we would expect from Kerry. They have one of the most dynamic forward lines in the business.
Playing with that sweeper. In fact, at times it looks a double sweeper. Cork just cannot press that Kerry kicker. They simply don't have the bodies to do it successfully. Graham O'Sullivan with the early ball into Clifford, and the layoff to O'Brien, and he's upended, and that'll be another free in for Kerry.
Yeah, just struggling to cope with the pace, the movement, the pace. Kerry, good win by Clifford. Immediately passes the ball to Stephen O'Brien, and it was probably a sensible free to give away, because if he didn't pull him down, he was in on goal.
Sean O'Shea already in his 5th season with the Kerry senior team. An underage star, very much a senior star. That's his second, his first from a place ball. So double scores in Páirc Rinn, approaching the midway point of this first half. So Martin will go long again, slice that rather, it's down towards O'Callaghan. Just a little nudge in the back of Jack Barry was sufficient to allow Cork bring it away. Cork need runners off the shoulder here. It's an easy take in the end for Shane Ryan.
Just an interesting tactic on the Cork kick-out. When they do go long, when they're forced to go long, Sean Powder moves from his sweeper position right out to the middle of the field and gets close to the contest to try and win that breaking ball. Or if they do win it, we know he has the pace to go forward. So just a little tactical variation from Cork on their long kick-outs.
Tom O'Sullivan. Oh, he so easily goes by John Cooper. Back out to Tyke Morley, one of the Temple No contingent in this Kerry side. O'Brien. Well, that's better for Cork. Colm O'Callaghan just held O'Brien up initially, at least. O'Brien looking for his second. He scuffed it, and he was fouled then. It would have been a 45 at least for Cork, but O'Brien took a belt after releasing that ball in.
He's causing the Cork defence a lot of problems. His running ability, his pace, and that's a late tackle and a dangerous tackle as well in the chest, and no doubt it's a yellow card for Maurice Shanley. But from the left-hand side, he really is causing a lot of problems for that Cork defence. He's able to manoeuvre, he's able to run, he's able to weave his way actually into at pace into that defence, and I think he's able to then find that little bit of space when he cuts back onto his right foot.
It's a rivalry that goes back so far. 121st meeting overall, but the 115th time they've met in Munster. Cork have won just 1 of the last 9. That's a third for O'Shea. And the Kerry fans are happy.
Well, as Jim McGuinness said before the game, that David Clifford teams will be double teaming him and triple marking him, and of course that will leave a lot more space then and freedom for the other Cork forwards.
You saw the Rock
Kerry forward
watching on. He could do with his sort of character in this Cork defence, although he might be allowed to bring his hurl on with him. This is John O'Rourke. He's been very quiet, Calvary Rangers clubman. Across it goes to Kevin O'Donovan. Still barely a touch for Brian Hurley, who's completely isolated inside. And that ball kicked in and marked by Dan Dineen. Now, has he got the capacity to take on the score from here, having called for that mark? Obviously not, and back he goes. O'Callaghan, good run made down the left by John Cooper rather. But it was well watched by Adrian Spillane. Here is Cooper anyway. Matty Taylor. That's a lovely turn from Sherlock. Trying to get away from Graham O'Sullivan. He gets his hand on the ball, and it's the second time Stephen Sherlock has had the ball stripped from him as he tries to make inroads in that Kerry defence.
Well, he just didn't play the ball. When he got inside Tom O'Sullivan, I think it was, and got goal side of him, but then he needed to play the ball and bounce the ball away, or solo the ball, but he got dispossessed, and Kerry attacking again.
We saw the Cork goalkeeper, Micheál A. Martin, who seems to have picked up a knock. Looks like a groin injury, and he's really struggling now on his goal line. And Cork are getting their sub-goalkeeper Dylan Foley warmed up. And he would be coming in for his championship debut. What a big moment that would be for him. Clifford, back out it goes to Brosnan. Clever ball from him. Lost though by Gavin White. Hurley finally gets a chance to get into the game, albeit where Kerry want him, an awful long way from their goal. He's going to have to cover a lot of ground here, Hurley, and he's done well. Well, he caused Kerry all sorts of problems, particularly the opening quarter of last year's Munster final, the Cork captain.
He did well. It was a poor free to give away by the Kerry defence, because he didn't have much support. He was a bit isolated, trying to find his way through the middle, but it's an important opportunity for Cork, and Stephen Sherlock has been excellent so far from his frees.
Sherlock curling it in from right to left, and he's got that one as well. So Cork with 4 scores, all coming from frees, all from that man. So a problem for Cork and for their keeper. And he came off in last year's Munster final as well. Micheál A. Martin, he was replaced by Mark White that day, and you could see him pull up after that, head in his hands immediately. No Mark White today. It's Dylan Foley from the Aero Club as the reserve keeper, and there he is. He looks like a man who is primed and ready to come in.
Yeah, it looked like maybe a quad injury. He kicked it out long and immediately put his hand on his thigh. So
well, that change is going to happen, and it's a real blow. He's very experienced. Micheál Martin played an All-Ireland club final 4 years ago when Nemo were beaten by that great Currafin side. So Dylan Foley comes in, and this is by a distance the biggest stage that he has ever stepped onto.
Yeah, but what a great opportunity from him in front of a big crowd here, home venue, playing championship against Kerry. These are the days I'm sure he's dreamed of. Probably didn't expect to get on today, but he's here now, and hopefully he'll have a good day.
A disappointment for An Taoiseach, Micheál Martin. His son's night is done. So an early and forced change in the Cork ranks. Here's Jack Barry. Now Tom O'Sullivan, who more often than not is the spare man for Kerry as Cork drop numbers back. 24 minutes in, just 3 between them. Now Adrian Spillane. It's well won by O'Shea. He's so powerful, Sean O'Shea. He was being fouled, and there's a space inside if O'Shea can pick it out, and he has the vision and skill to find it. Back it goes to Páirc Clifford. His brother was trying to sneak around the back, and Poucher was brave and alive to the danger. He is one man that is willing to put his body on the line for this Cork cause.
Yeah, David Clifford may get a yellow for this. I think it was a tackle while Sean Poucher was in the air. He read it really well. And yeah, a dangerous play there as Sean Poucher was jumping for the ball here. You see him shoulder there as he was in the air. So correct decision by the referee, but eyes on the ball, Sean Poucher, eyes on the ball and nothing else, and a great win for him inside in the full back line. Denied Kerry a certain goal opportunity.
John O'Rourke leaves it for Taylor and gets it back again. Sherlock trying to make a run in behind. It's still O'Rourke. Sherlock has it now. Oh, lovely dummy hop from him outside of the boot. That's magic! His first run play, and how beautifully he worked the position.
And that's an inspirational score, particularly after Sean Poucher's win down on the other side, and beautiful dummy bounce from Stephen Sherlock, and with the outside of the boot from the wrong side, a fantastic score, and you can hear how it's lifted the Cork crowd here in the stadium.
Well, he has wielded that right boot to considerable effect so far. Cork looking now for 3 in a row. Here's John Cooper. Off to O'Mahony. O'Mahony strikes it cleanly and over the bar. And Cork have taken 3 points out of this 4-point Kerry lead. Back to the bare minimum, and they're on a little bit of a roll.
And it came from a win on a Kerry kick-out, and momentum is huge in any sport. And as I said, the last score from Stephen Sherlock has certainly lifted the Cork team.
O'Mahony's so keen to make an impression. He missed last year's championship with a torn hamstring. That's his first point of this year's championship, and suddenly more of the breaks now are being hoovered up by men in red. Here's the captain, Brian Hurley, and have the crowd with them now, Cork. Hurley looking inside towards Cathal O'Mahony. He's just got a bit of separation from Tom O'Sullivan. Down he goes.
It's just remarkable, Dave, how a score from play like that can just lift the team, and for the last couple of minutes they've played with more pace when they're moving the ball forward, more energy. Prior to that, most of their build-up has been a kind of a slow holding the ball, trying to find little pockets of space, and you know, they got 2 points from play. They hadn't scored from play for the first 24-25 minutes, got 2 points from play, an opportunity now to level the score.
Well, he burst into the game in the last few minutes, Cathal O'Mahony. And that foul from Jason Foley hasn't gone unnoticed by the Cork bench. They've been down to the officials here, insisting that more needs to be done, that was the 3rd foul from Jason Foley. Certainly, that's how they see it. It's a very awkward angle now for the right footer. Stephen Sherlock has been error-free so far. Can he continue that? He certainly can. 4 on the spin for Cork, and we're level at Páirc Rinn.
Stephen Sherlock kicked 6 points already. Fantastic return. I think critically for Cork as well, Brian Hurley has got into the game in the last 7 or 8 minutes. He's the captain, he's a leader, and he created the last opportunity for that free for Cork. So brilliant response from Cork in the last 7 or 8 minutes. Stephen
Sherlock kicked 4 points in his first 6 championship appearances for Cork. He's got 6 already in this first half. But here come Kerry now, and that's a foul on Diarmuid O'Connor. Referee's arm was in the air, playing advantage, and Diarmuid O'Connor has put Kerry back in front to just stop the rot, if we can go as far as putting it in those terms.
Yeah, Diarmuid O'Connor's got his hands on the ball more than any other Kerry player. A really good score, good advantage played by the referee.
Well, the first kick out from the goalkeeping debutant is straight out over the sideline. At least he's got it out of the way. Here's Sean O'Shea. Kerry know they've lost the impetus here. Need to seize that initiative back their way. Here's Páirc Clifford foraging further out the field. He's a real creative force when Kerry need him in those sorts of areas. Here's Tom O'Sullivan. Wriggling free is Rinn O'Begley, but he was being fouled. Morley. Cork's aim would have been to be in this game at half-time. We're 6 minutes or so away from that, and there's only one between them. But it's always a worry when David Clifford is knocking around the ball. Picked up by Barry, and on the loop was Tony Brosnan. Lovely build-up play from Kerry, but it lacked the finish. That's their first wide of the game.
Yeah, Kerry would want to get David Clifford into the game a bit more. He's winning the ball out in front and been tightly marked, and obviously the sweeper is working well, but he is laying the ball off to runners coming through, and that's the first poor miss from Kerry. I think it's the first wide from Kerry, actually. Both sides have been unerring in their accuracy so far. Only 2 wides in the game. 15 scores, 2 wides. Really good efficiency from both sides.
Dylan Foley may be new to the scene, Paul, but he looks an experienced campaigner here. The manner in which he's just getting rid of one ball and the other and just slowing this game down a little. Goes back down towards that sideline. That's a much better kick, though. The break all important. Maguire wants it, doesn't get there. Beat to it by a powerful challenge from Diarmuid O'Connor, and Maguire has gone down. And one can only hope that's not an injury to his hand, as Kerry look to make it a 2-point lead. That's in from Tony Brosnan. Welcome back to Championship football, Tony Brosnan. His first appearance since the defeat in the rain to Cork 2 years ago.
Well, every contest for the break is a fierce contest in the middle of the field, and players really going for it. There it is. It was Diarmuid O'Connor again, who's just went for the ball, eyes on the ball, fisted. The ball was open, and Ian Maguire just in the way there. But what I liked about Tony Brosnan, he missed the previous opportunity, but as he was carrying the ball down, he leaned in with his right shoulder into his marker, and then that just gave him a little bit the impetus to move on to his left foot and have the time then and the space to kick the score.
Cork will be thankful Maguire's back on his feet and able to continue, and the break has gone their way. Off goes Sherlock, the man of the moment. And again, he's dispossessed. Kerry so strong in that tackle. O'Connor. Back to Morley. Space now in front for Adrian Spillane. Gavin White. Jason Foley, his first chance to really venture into Cork territory and send one in towards Clifford. It's 2-on-1, that looked a foul. The referee, in fairness to him, had picked up a really good position. He was no more than 10 yards away. O'Callaghan, now Cooper. Hurley. Wants it back again, Brian Hurley. Man, he was once told he'd be unlikely to play again. So much damage was there to his hamstrings. Cork have to cease bringing the ball into contact because they're losing so many 50-50 tackles. Now Maguire, Rory Maguire that is. Brian Hurley has not got up as yet from that tackle. You can just see him at the top of your picture there. They need him to stick around. He's back on his feet. Colm O'Callaghan to Ian Maguire.
Well, one of the things we noticed before the game, the warm-up, Dave, was the conditioning of the Kerry players in particular look very strong, very, very fit, and they're certainly putting in some heavy tackles and winning a lot of balls. And Cork are trying to run through that Kerry line around the midfield, the 45-metre line.
Cork just slowed things down purposely there. Get a breather, but now they look to inject a bit of pace into their attack through O'Callaghan. He's got away from the cover and then swallowed up by the Kerry defence. Cork are simply not learning their lesson when it comes to that aspect of the game. They've made that same mistake over and over in this first half.
Yeah, it was a feature of Kerry's performances in the league campaign as well, that their tackling had improved, the number of dispossessions when the opponents were attacking were higher. I think their average concession rate might have been 13 points a game against top teams in Division 1, so they've certainly made big improvements in their defence.
Jack Barry, tough man to stop. Clifford backing off from his Kevin Flahill. That superb work from Cork, and Pouter like a terrier on the ground, and he's dragged down by the retreating Jack Barry, who may see a card of some description here. or maybe just have his name taken, but he might be in trouble the next time.
Well, Jack Barry, a professional foul, call it cynical, whatever you like, but Cork had momentum. He certainly knew that Sean Powder had the pace to go past him and then create opportunities. There was space in the Cork forward line. So he slowed it down, and that plays to their advantage.
Again, John Cleary not happy with the fouling, persistent in his eyes, that Kerry have conducted in this first half. A hero of the Cork teams of 89 and 90 that won the All-Ireland. They've managed to win it just once in the next 32 years. That was in 2010 under Conor Coonahan, a former teammate of Cleary's. 4 additional minutes, so into the first of those.
If they can keep it at this, Dave, I think John Cleary and his team will be absolutely thrilled. They haven't given Cork or given Kerry any goal opportunities.
Maybe they can do better than just keeping it at 2. O'Callaghan needs to be brave here. It's broken for John O'Rourke. Trying to stand up Doig Morley. Hurley. And a little look at the post. He may have another one now. Into the space he goes. Brian Hurley. Oh, it's just gone to the right and wide. Hurley was hit a little bit late.
He did everything right. Absolutely fantastic piece of play by Brian Hurley, except just the finish. But he was hit late. And as I said earlier, Kerry tackling it is ferocious. It's on the borderline.
John Cleary again, Paul, absolutely fuming on that sideline after that tackle on Brian Hurley. Now, is this a free?
Yeah.
Well, there's absolutely no question it's a free.
No question it's a free.
How was that missed?
Absolutely. No question.
No wonder John Cleary's as angry as he is.
Late tackle, and probably should have been a yellow card.
If Kerry go down the other end and add to their lead, that will rub salt into the Cork wounds. Here's O'Brien trying to get away from O'Mahony. O'Brien looking to play a quick one. There's a bit of needle in the air at the moment, which is no bad thing when it comes to championship football involving these two counties, because it's been absent many times over the last decade or so. And we're hearing the Cork bench in particular focusing on Jason Foley when in discussion with the official on the sideline, Seamus Mulhare, a leashman on that far side. And we just said it a moment ago, Paul, what should have been a free in for Cork that would have brought the deficit down to 1 is now a free at the other end. Those two boys, the O'Shea brothers, will be pretty pleased if this goes over the bar. From Sean O'Shea.
Yeah, most definitely that should have been a free into Cork. It was a late tackle from Doig Morley, and very, very lucky to get away with it.
And that has drifted away to the left and wide, so Cork won't be as upset perhaps as they might otherwise have been. A second wide of the evening for Kerry. So a little over a minute remaining in this first half. We still very much have a contest on our hands. Dylan Foley goes long. O'Callaghan couldn't win it. Kerry come up with the break. Sean O'Shea. Inside it goes to Barry. And now Graham O'Sullivan. Nice ball inside. Taken on by Brosnan. He's faced down by Maurice Shanley. Oh, Shanley got the hand in. Clean, technically excellent piece of defending from the Cork full-back.
That was absolutely superb defending, because Tony Brosnan is elusive. He can go outside on it to his left, but he tried to go inside along the end line, and Maurice Shanley read it really well. And terrific bit of defending. And you know, we talk about there's been a lot of hard tackling. There's 17 frees in the game. It's not huge, but the referee probably could have given a few more. But it's a really great contest out there.
Shanley. Cork, they look like a side pretty happy with their lot just for the moment. Into the final few seconds. Is there time for one more shooting opportunity? Unlikely. There is the half-time whistle and an absorbing first half Kerry were on top. At one point they led by 4, but the brilliance of Stephen Sherlock, who's kicked 6 of Cork's opening 7 points, well, that has them very much in this game at half-time. Ian Maguire, he's battled hard in midfield, and there's been tussles of real intensity all over this Páirc Rinn pitch. Half-time here in Cork. It is Cork 7 points, Kerry 9. We'll be back with analysis next.
Welcome back, and it is half-time here. It is Kerry who lead by 2 points, 9 points to 7. Looking at some of the stats there, Jim, what stands out for you from that first half?
I think the kickouts probably. We spoke about it before the game. Grania 14 for Kerry, 7 for Cork. Interestingly, in the very last kick-out, the last Kerry kick-out, the Cork didn't play the sweeper back. They pushed everybody up and they took them on, and they nearly won it. So that's really interesting in terms of the second half, because I think there is a bit of joy to be had there. It isn't working for them based on the stats, and it isn't working based on the scoreboard in the first half. So I think they should just, now they're in the game, 2 points in it, take the game fully to them and push up fully and see can they get pressure on that kick-out.
Yeah, I think the scoring efficiency of both teams have been very good, 7 out of 9. You know, if Cork can maintain that in the second half, they'll put themselves in a big position. But I agree with James. Are they going to be cautious now, or with Jim? Are they going to be cautious, or are they going to really go for it? And if they're going to go for it, they have to win more of Kerry's kickouts. The other interesting stat there with the turnover, Kerry have actually turned Cork over more time, so there needs to be a role reversal of that in the second half. But last year, up for 20-25 minutes, Cork were playing really well, putting the game up to Kerry, but their fitness, you know, they've fizzled out of the game. So again, that's a big question mark hanging over them here in the second half today as well.
Okay, well, if Cork had come out there, just very briefly in one answer, can Cork stay with this Kerry side, do you think, in the second half?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question. Look, they haven't done it previously, but look, I think they can. I think they can.
Well, let's see. Páirc Rinn, they wanted the home venue. They have it as the teams come back out onto the field. Let's head back to our commentary team for the second half. Dave McIntyre and Paul Early.
Grania, thank you. Well, 22 points was the difference between the sides at the full-time whistle in Killarney last year. There's just 2 between them at the break today. How long can Cork stick with them is the question, as Kieran said. And if they can pick off a couple of early scores in the second half, they may well start to believe that there's more in this game for them than mere damage limitation. Kerry, though, Paul, likely to up their game as well and go through the gears as this second half progresses.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And Cork won both throw-ins, but that was a super piece of defensive play by Graham O'Sullivan. He was behind the player when the ball, his marker when the ball was kicked in, but he got in front, won the ball, laid it off, and did his job very well.
And as we go through the second half, the benches may well have their role to play. Kerry have the likes of Paul Gainey and Paul Murphy, David Moran in reserve. For Cork, well, their bench in total have 11 championship appearances between them. 6 of the 11 have never played championship football. It's asking an awful lot of young players with so little experience to make a big impact. Here's Gavin White being chased by John O'Rourke. Hurley just got a little toe in, and the referee spotted that. A tug in the jersey by John O'Rourke, and that's a free in for Kerry. And Cork having a bit too much to say for themselves. I think it was Matty Taylor had a little word in the ear of the referee as he passed him. So that's turned from a reasonably difficult free in. For someone like Sean O'Shea, it'll now be a gimme.
Oh, yes, it is, yeah. Arms around, a little bit of a tug from the back as well. You add Stefan Cunbar as well onto that list of players on the bench. You know, he suffered a dislocated shoulder earlier in the season, so he's back, and we know he can play in defence. He can also play midfield.
Yeah, we do hope we'll get a chance to look at him later. There's so much talk about him now that he's back from Australia. Sean O'Shea looking for his 4th. And his 4th he gets. So the lead back out to 3. They trailed by 4 at one point in the second half, Cork, and they reeled off a few points in a row. So here is Dylan Foley, plays outfield for his club, plays outfield at Sigerson Cup level. He's not familiar with the goalkeeping position, but he's doing okay. Kerry win the break, now Paudie Clifford. Bruno Beglic. Well, he's easily gone around John Cooper there. What a scrap for the ball that is, involving Maurice Shanley and Tom O'Sullivan, and both of them refusing to yield. And there's been a bit of dog, a bit of fight in Cork today, Paul, that we genuinely haven't seen very often over the last 7 or 8 years, bar maybe that incredible evening in the wind and rain in 2020.
Yeah, well, Maurice Shanley again just got his hand in, and once he knocked the ball away, he went after it himself, and great bit of fight. Good play by Maurice Shanley. He did very well in the first half also.
It's a Cork team that needs to carve out its own identity under Ricken and Cleary. We wish our very best to Kit Ricken in his recovery from illness. Hope to see him on the sideline for Cork again soon. And that ball has gone wide off the right boot of Sherlock, who couldn't miss in the first half. Cork's third. Now, Graham O'Sullivan. Kerry making very easy inroads right up towards the halfway mark whenever they're carrying it forward.
There's a critical period now for Cork. Game could easily run away from them here at this stage. Kerry will still play with the same pace and intensity as they always do. Question is, can Cork match them for this particular quarter and then sow some doubts in their minds?
Well, that's the sort of turnover that Kerry were winning routinely in the first half. And as Peter said in his halftime analysis, it was that stat in particular that Cork would have to turn on its head, and that worked for me and Maguire. He's exactly an example of how well they can potentially do it.
Up front as well, Dave, they're just going to have to get some more out of the other forwards. We've only had 2 players who scored from play in the Cork forward line. They've only got 2 points from play. Kerry, on the other hand, have had 6 different scorers. 5 of the forwards have scored from play so far. So Cork really need to get some more scores from the other forwards.
Sherlock wins that out in front of Tyke Morley. Now Dan Dineen. Cooper. Kevin O'Donovan. A couple of county titles and Munster club medals with Nemo. He wants to achieve something with Cork, as does this man John O'Rourke. Back out it goes to O'Callaghan. John Cooper. Cork keeping possession, but struggling to find an opening. Cathal O'Mahony looking to change that. Just jinks back onto his right. Oh, he's got right through that one. Cathal O'Mahony gets his 2nd score of the game. And that is a score that has got Cork back up and running in this 2nd period.
Oh, fantastic score from Cathal O'Mahony. 2 points from play. Another one of the under-20 team that won the All-Ireland in 2019. It's really interesting, Dave, in that 4 of the players that started today, Maurice Shanley, Rory Maguire, they're holding down key positions. Full-back, centre-half back, Colin O'Callaghan at key position midfield, and again Cathal O'Mahony performing well up front. So that successful under-20 team has contributed well to this performance here today, and good development.
There's another 3 of that side on the bench as well, and that's another breaking ball won by Cork, and Matty Taylor was superb in that tackle. Here's Maguire now. Will Cork now start taking the game to Kerry? Hurley looking to go all the way beyond Jason Foley. Foley gets a hand in there. Hurley still has it, looking to cross the ball. It's just beyond Dan Dineen. Well, you could see what was in the mind's eye of Brian Hurley. He just overhit the pass. Well, Beglic's ball has a rather aimless feel to it. And the Cork fans in Páirc Rinn, they are believing at the moment. John O'Rourke. Needs an option, O'Rourke. Gets it outside and from Dineen. John O'Rourke, one of the most experienced players in this team. This is 27th championship appearance. Crosser goes to Kevin O'Donovan. Cooper. Now Ian Maguire. Well, the hand in the air. we believe to be the signal that we're just going to slow things down. Everyone get the oxygen into their lungs. And maybe just draw that Kerry defence a little further from their goal. John O'Rourke.
Yeah, and they are drawing the Kerry defence out, leaving one player inside at the edge of the square, and it's Colm O'Callaghan. So they're leaving a midfielder inside, trying to manufacture maybe a high ball into... here he is winning the ball out front.
He leaves a little on Adrian Spillane for good measure. That's the sort of bite that we haven't always seen from Cork in the last decade. Going back to that team that won all those league championships, Munster titles, and that 2010 All-Ireland. Here comes Tom O'Sullivan, looking to push his man over the sideline, but O'Mahony wasn't having it. Sent in by O'Donovan towards Hurley. Good tackle on him. And now Kerry will look to break, having been starved with the ball for the last 4 or 5 minutes. And the speedster at wing-back is Gavin White. Calling for it inside is Jack Barry. Clifford hasn't seen much of the ball at all in the second period, which is now 9 minutes old. Taking that at full speed was Diarmuid O'Connor. Well, Cork have had to work so hard to generate any sort of an opening at the other end of the field, Paul. Kerry go down, and within seconds they've got a free in. Yeah, it was a hand-pass ball. I thought Colm O'Mahony did really well in the first instance to win the ball out around the half-forward line, and when the ball was popped into Brian Hurley, Jason Foley did really well. Again, very tight marking defender, got the hand in, and then they worked the ball up. And even though David Clifford isn't, you know, as prolific as we are used to seeing him, he always does the right thing. Sole of the ball on his left foot, gave a little simple pass to Diarmuid O'Connor, who was running at an angle straight towards the goal and has created this point for Sean O'Shea. That's his 5th. Kerry back into a 3-point lead.
And again, it came from a turnover in the Cork attack.
Well, the form book didn't really bode well for Cork. They only beaten a down team in absolute disarray in the league, and an Offaly side that have subsequently gone down to a heavy defeat to Wexford. But they've competed very well here. That looked like it was marked by Gavin White, and then there was a foul, and again Cork cannot keep their mouth shut, and it's costing them. Cork about to bring in Ty Corkery.
They're very generous 13-metre advantages that the referee is giving. It was more like a 20-metre advantage.
There was a lovely ball into Brosnan by Sean O'Shea, but he's put it behind the posts. Kerry's 3rd wide.
Well, Cork on their kickouts are going to the same position all the time, so they should be able to get numbers and be able to compete in the air, and they haven't done that in the last couple of kickouts. So when they know where the ball is going, they should certainly be able to at least equalise the numbers that Kerry have, and preferably outnumber them.
Powder. Chance to drive forward. And Stephen O'Brien just had a little pull on him. It just maybe in the shoulder. There wasn't much in it from O'Brien, but it's on the shoulder that Powder injured in that first half, which I'm sure still feeling a little tender. Well, there's very little in that. It just must be down to the knock that he took on it in the first period. Here's Cooper. Wriggles away from the attempted tackle of Spillane. Now O'Donovan. It's opened up a little for him. O'Donovan! Really good score from the cornerback. Kevin O'Donovan with just his 2nd ever score in championship football.
Fantastic score. We talk about spreading the load of scores for Cork, and Kevin O'Donovan certainly done that. That's a super score. And, you know, I was reading an article written by Kieran Sheehan, who's in studio today, wrote a very good article, and he was talking about looking for Cork to have a proper defensive structure, but also to force Kerry, to delay Kerry when they did get the ball into their forwards. That a big part of defensive play is delaying the attacking player, and I think Cork have done that really well today.
Brosnan, this may well be his final contribution. He's about to be withdrawn, and it won't be a memorable one from his point of view. Kerry trying to peg Cork back here, and that's a foul. And the referee just halting proceedings so these changes can take place. So Paul Gainey left out of the starting 15, a man who has a great record against Cork. 6-19 he scored against them in 6 appearances in Championship football. In fact, he's never lost to them. He missed out on that defeat to Cork in 2020. So the man withdrawn is Tony Brosnan.
What an asset to have on your bench, Paul Gainey, with all the experience that he has and his ability to get scores from the left and right side.
A little over 20 minutes remaining, and it is still a one-score game in the sunshine of Páirc. You're in a beautiful summer's evening. Well, Cork just hung around long enough to have the final say 2 years ago. They'll be looking to do something similar here. Kerry bringing in David Moore in shortly as Cork come forward through Matty Taylor. Dineen now needs an option, gets it from O'Mahony. O'Mahony from right on the 45-metre line. That's his third, and they've all been superb. Cathal O'Mahony has brought his shooting boots to Cork City, and Cork are back to it in a point.
Well, he's playing with no fear, has the confidence of having won in All-Ireland, has an All-Ireland under 20 under his belt, and kicking them from everywhere at this stage. That's just a fantastic, that's the best score of the individual score of the game from outside the 45-metre line.
Well, Kerry are bringing in the experienced boys now, and Gainey and Moore, and there's a job of work to be done if they're to see this through. Stephen O'Brien now. He's been quiet in the second half, but that's a lovely bit of elusive running, ducking under the tackle of O'Donovan, but as has been the case in this second half, it's just not quite happening for Kerry. O'Brien has at least made a 45 out of it.
Just little mistakes been made. Stephen O'Brien having a good game, finding that space, carrying the ball well, but last pass didn't hit the target, but they've been lucky enough here to get a 45. And another great asset to have David Moore to come in, obviously one of the best fielders in the game, so I'd imagine that they're going to try and again force Cork to go long on their kickouts, and with David Moore around the middle of the field.
Murphy coming in shortly as well, Paul. They really are bringing in the big names.
Well, they have to, because they're under pressure.
So Sean O'Shea looking for his 6th, his first chance from a 45. There are a few more capable in the country at kicking these. Starts it well outside the post and brings it back in. Nicely done.
Yeah, an important one, because that was a pressure kick. I think he just pulled one wide in the first half, was it?
So Brian O'Begley withdrawn. Paul Murphy coming in, the former Kerry captain. An All-Ireland medalist 8 years ago now. Kerry with just one All-Ireland since Jack O'Connor was last in charge. Back in 2009 when they beat Cork in that final at Croke Park. Great piece of fielding from O'Sullivan. Murphy for Moore, and 2 of the new men introduced. Here's O'Brien. Murphy looking for David Clifford. So few opportunities for him to impose himself in this game today. Moran for O'Brien. He spots a lot of space for Jack Barry to exploit. O'Shea. Nice transfer to Clifford. Paudie Clifford goes down. And Kerry will have a chance to go back into a 3-point lead.
Lovely reverse pass there by Sean O'Shea, but again it was a great catch by Graham O'Sullivan on the Cork kick-out that started that move.
Kerry are just starting to take control again. Over it goes from O'Shea. So the lead is 3 once more. There's Jack O'Connor. 14th time he's met Cork in the championship as Kerry manager. 7 wins, 3 defeats, 3 draws, his record coming into today. Man, he's won All-Ireland as a manager with Kerry at all 3 grades, minor, under 21 and senior. On multiple occasions in all 3 grades as well. That's a foul on Rory Maguire. And Kevin Flahav, he's had a really good game at cornerback. He's quietly gone about the business of marking David Clifford, which is one of the most difficult tasks in the game nowadays.
He's done a very good job. Other than the first point that David Clifford got, he hasn't let David get inside him at any occasion throughout the game. Forced David to move the ball out and just to lay passes on to support runners. So top-class performance from Kevin Flahav.
Cooper, back he goes to Maguire. Now Colin O'Callaghan and Kevin O'Donovan. Out come Stephen O'Brien to meet him. Not the best of balls in. Gavin White read it really well. Well, he just left enough on him, Kevin O'Donovan, to force the mistake. White was a little unlucky there. There's John Cleary. He's starting to look at his bench now and wonder what his next move should be. As we spoke about earlier, really no experienced operators on his bench. He has to trust to youth. And maybe the fearlessness that they might bring into a poll, because they're a group of players who don't really have the scar tissue that a lot of these Cork players would have had against Kerry.
Absolutely. Nothing to lose at this stage, just to go for it.
Sherlock picks it up. Back it goes to Hurley. Ian Maguire. Oh, and Gavin White. Superb from him again, but Cork, in their effort to prevent him bringing the ball out, were a bit too aggressive in the tackle.
Yeah, and I'm sure it probably would be a yellow card. It was a high tackle, more so than a deliberate pull down, but let's see what the referee decides. But
John O'Rourke.
Yeah, it was deliberately slowed him down, yeah.
He's one of those men who's got Munster Championship medals at minor and under 21 level, but nobody left in this Cork panel with links to the last Munster Championship winning side a decade ago. Mark Collins stepped away in February of this year. He was one of the last remaining links. Cork preparing to bring in Damien Gore for just his second ever championship appearance. Moran. What a man to be able to bring in off the bench. And he wants it back again here, David Moran. 14 years since his debut. Lovely hands. Diarmuid O'Connor breaking through. And Cork survive, repel that particular attack, but they've to steel themselves for another. Paudie Clifford. And he was hit after that effort on goal. And again, John Cleary absolutely fuming. And I think it's probably with the incident just before half-time in mind, Paul, where Brian Hurley was in a very similar situation, pulled the trigger, hit afterwards, and the whistle went, or didn't go on that occasion.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, but you have to be impressed by Kerry's skills in the very short, tight spaces there. Started with David Moran, and good skills, good pass inside to Diarmuid O'Connor, and again, Paudie Clifford, to be able to just show the ball and then find that little bit of space, accelerate through and have the kick, and as he was kicking, he was pulled back a little bit, but in tight spaces, Kerry forwards are very, very skillful, and those evasion skills, that ability to sidestep or to do a little swerve or a dummy bounce, they're all very comfortable doing that, and when they're under pressure and when they've been tightly marked, those type of skills can get them out of a hole and find the spaces to get the scores.
Over it goes from the boot of Clifford for his third. Kerry can breathe a little easier. Cork now 8 minutes without a score. Sent long by Dylan Foley. Moran, majestic in the air.
Well, he looks just like a general out there, and exactly what Kerry needed. They're just putting huge, huge pressure on the Cork long kick out and forcing Cork backwards.
Here's Gainey. Wants a score of his own, gets one of his own. And they're starting to stretch their legs now, Kerry, and maybe the enormous effort that Cork have put into this point, and it's now starting to tell, perhaps.
Well, absolutely, and when you look across the middle, you see Jack Barry, you see David Moran, you see Diarmuid O'Connor, 3 huge men out there, and Tyke Morley is pushing up as well, so they're really, really squeezing
Morley's got
Cork
his eyes
kick out.
on this kick out, so as does Gavin White. Well, Kerry are setting themselves up now to bury this Cork effort, break their spirit in this last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, just Cork don't have the strength and depth to compete in the air with those Kerry players around the middle of the field, and that really has turned the game in Kerry's favour, and it should put them 6 ahead.
Error free, Sean O'Shea, that's his 8th. Cork are now making that change. In fairness to Ty Corker, he's been waiting to come in over on that sideline for quite some time. Replaces Sean Powder, who unsurprisingly has run out of gas a little. He's played very little football as he's overcome the latest in a litany of hamstring issues. Foley's kick out. Cork finally win a break. And they've lost it now. Kerry in total control. Graham O'Sullivan sees Stephen O'Brien. And O'Brien only knows one way, straight at the defender. Lovely. Really good stuff from O'Brien, who's had a battle on his hands to nail down a place in this Kerry team in the last 18 months. He's going the right way about holding on to it tonight.
Yeah, well, what's really impressive about Kerry, they lost the kick out, but they won. They turned Cork over when they won the ball, and you know, that shows just a ferocity and a good temperament. The last 7 or 8 minutes have been really strong for Kerry, and they've kept the foot on the pedal.
Cork do win the break this time and hold on to it. That was McSweeney who laid it off, and the tackle still coming in thick and fast from Kerry. O'Rourke is swallowed, and again Cork are turned over. Moran sends Gavin White into the space. It's relentless now from Kerry. White gets away from Maguire. O'Shea for Paddy Clifford, and that's curling straight over the red spot in the middle of that crossbar above the head of Dylan Foley.
Yeah, super score. Gavin White has really come into his own in the last 10 minutes as well, just getting forward, using his pace to open up opportunities. There's a hunger about this Kerry team at the moment. You can look out there, they're really forcing, they're on their toes, forcing the long kick out, and they have the big men out there to compete.
Well, Cork now 12 minutes without a score. Kerry have got 6 in that time, and it's a one-way traffic. Gainey knew there was an option in behind him. Clifford looking for the kill shot. What a save! Dylan Foley. First time he's ever pulled on the goalkeeping jersey for Cork, and he's pulled off a brilliant stop against the best finisher in the land. Well, Cork are still scrapping here. Cooper. Now Sherlock. So much to the fore in the first half. We've barely seen him at all in the second. Taylor. Now Cathal O'Mahony looking for yet another raking score. Now this one a little off target. Now there was an injury picked up by Kevin Flahiv as he attempted to prevent David Clifford from getting that shot away, and he just came down really awkwardly on his left arm.
And for the goalkeeper, Dylan Foley, he stood up really well, made himself as big as possible, and that was a fantastic save.
Well, he's not really second choice goalkeeper in this Cork panel. There are other options that ordinarily would be available, but he hasn't shirked the size of the task that was before him when he came in, and he's done very well. Micheál Burns is about to come in for Kerry. He's coming in for Stephen O'Brien. He's had a really good game today. He's kicked a couple of points and run the ball with the usual purpose that he brings whenever he pulls on the Kerry shirt. Murphy calls that mark and gets it into Morley. 7 minutes remaining. Cork have certainly made Kerry work for this. And that's the type of positive that John Cleary will have to take from this as they make their way into the qualifiers. O'Shea out front, and good strength and balance as well. He makes taking points look effortless at times, Sean O'Shea. That's his 9th.
Yeah, great pass on the bounce from Diarmuid O'Connor, and he's really so strong when he makes those runs. Even though the defender was tight to him, he was able to win the ball, and once he has the ball, he has the skills and to be able to find the space for himself to kick the score. But it's been a really impressive 10-minute period from Kerry. They've controlled, obviously, the middle of the field, and they've been very accurate and up front as well, and a variety of scores to kill the game.
Well, you could see there 15 minutes and counting since Cork last raised a flag of any colour, and since then Kerry have strangled the life out of them. Sherlock. Ty Corkery. Corkery picks up the loose ball. And it goes to Owen McSweeney, looking to curl one. Oh, he struck that brilliantly. Well, they don't score too many, Cork, at the moment in this second half, but when they do, they're very easy on the eye.
Absolutely super strike from Owen McSweeney. He was down to start, and Sean Powder obviously came in to replace him. They went with 7 defenders, and that worked very effectively for long periods of this game, and they stifled Kerry for up to maybe 10-15 minutes ago. But just the class and the strength and depth of the Kerry squad has told in the last number of minutes.
Brian Hayes on for his championship debut, a son of Paddy, who won a couple of All-Irelands with today's manager John Cleary back in 89 and 90, and this guy's a real talent. He's won All-Ireland under-20 medals at hurling and football with Cork. And he's one for the future. As is the case with many of this Cork panel, they'd so many debutants in the league. And now 4 different players have made their championship debut tonight. Here's Gavin White. He leaves it for Micheál Burns. Now Paudie Clifford. Across the field it goes to Morley. David Clifford. And now there's another injury, a leg injury for Kevin Flahiv. Gainey. Burns steadies himself and pumps it between the posts. Good guy to have on the bench, Micheál Burns. He's a brilliant carrier of the ball. That's his 4th championship point.
And 8 different scorers from play for Kerry, so very, very difficult to defend against a team that has that many scorers.
Joe O'Connor coming in for Kerry. He's the Kerry county captain this season, nominated by his club Austin Stacks this year after their county title win last year, despite never previously having started a game for the county. They do things old school down in Kerry.
All the top midfielders at Kerry seem to be from Tralee. I think Jack Barry, Diarmuid O'Connor, David Moran and Joe O'Connor, all Tralee. And Stefan Conbor as well. Of course, if he features later in the championship, he can play at midfield also.
Kevin Flahiv, he is bearing the battle scars of this Munster semi-final tonight. He has poured himself into this challenge, taking on David Clifford and doing it very well, and that doesn't look great.
It doesn't know, but he can be really proud of his performance tonight.
So David Clifford will have a new suitor. Gavin White's had a huge second half. He's won another kick out, and Burns has sent it in early towards Sean O'Shea, who's gone into full forward. So Sean O'Shea with another opportunity, and this will move him into double figures. So Sean O'Shea, he's into double figures, and it's that time of the evening, Paul, where we need to look at who's really impressed you and who you've picked out as your man of the match.
Oh, look, there's been a lot of very good individual performances. I think Kerry defensively have been very, very good. Gavin White, obviously, I think Graham O'Sullivan has done well. Jason Foley's done well. Up front, obviously, Sean O'Shea, and the variety of scorers for Cork. You know, Cork can be really proud of their collective performance tonight, but to me, the game was won in midfield by Kerry. And I think it's only fitting that a midfielder gets the man of the match award tonight. I think Jim O'Connor was outstanding in the first half. He's 25 possessions. His tackling was very good. His passing was good. His support play was good. So I think he deserves the man of the match award tonight.
No mistake. And straight off the ground from Dylan Foley. There was snow on that ball when it came back down off David Clifford's effort, and it allowed Kerry time to get underneath it and forcing the foul from Foley. And David Clifford will pop this one over for what will be his fourth. And there is the man of the match. A big game from Diarmuid O'Connor of Nagale in Tralee. His fourth season on the panel. Never really established himself as a key member of the starting 15. That was his objective for this year, and he's set the bar high this evening. Over it goes from Clifford, and the lead is increased further into the final minute.
I think from a Cork point of view as well, the fact that they've had 4 or 5 of the under-20 team, I mentioned it before, the winners in All-Ireland winners in 2019 in key positions today. I think they can build for the future with those guys in those key positions, and that's a positive for Cork. If they can bring this type of performance and intensity and quality into the qualifiers, they'll be a tough team to beat.
Here's Cooper. His first taste of championship action tonight. Into the first of 4 additional minutes. Here's O'Donovan. Well, Cork will need to steel themselves for a run at the qualifiers, of which there are just 2 rounds this year. And some pretty big fish in there already. Mayo and Tyrone, chief amongst them. Absolutely crucial, that win over Offaly in their final league game, which is what has allowed them to take their place in the qualifiers on the back of this defeat. Otherwise it would have been down into the Tailteann Cup, the second tier competition that is being inaugurated this year. Colm O'Callaghan.
Like players like Colm O'Callaghan, Rory Maguire, they're big men. Maurice Shanley has proven tonight again how good a defender he is, and Cathal O'Mahony with 3 outstanding points from play. You know, he young player again, but ready for the big time, and that's a real positive for Cork that they have those type of players coming through, and if they can continue to develop. They said they've gone through a very tough time over the last number of years since Kieran Sheehan in studio was playing, but if they can develop these players who have had good success.
Long ball in towards Hayes at the edge of the square. He's a big man, but there's few bigger than David Moran. Clifford for his older brother Paudie. Kerry just stroking the ball around Páirc Rinn now. Burns, he wants the return ball. He was shoved off it as he went through. And McSweeney's dragged back by Clifford, who's on a yellow card. There's Sherlock for Taylor. Rory Maguire. Free in for the Corkman.
Just looking at David Moran there, I think when David Moran came in, he's made a big impact on the game, even though he's only played probably 20 minutes, but when he came on, he just seemed to settle the Kerry team, and as I said, he's just got such a big presence in the middle of the field. And even there, in that last passage of play where the ball was kicked in long, he was competing in the full back line, just has the experience to hold off the Cork player, win the ball, work it out. And a big asset for Kerry to have him fully fit.
He's in there marking Hayes on the edge of the square. Oh, Paul Murphy was very brave there. He knew there was a hit coming in, and he's felt it. Last 30 seconds. Double scores in Páirc Rinn. It's certainly nothing close to resembling the mauling Cork took in Fitzgerald Stadium last year. It's been a creditable performance from the Cork men, but unfortunately for them, the result is the same. And it's just one win in a decade now against Kerry for Cork. Kerry continuing to add to their score. Over it goes from Paul Geaney. He's had a good impact since coming in, a second score since his introduction.
Absolutely, and that's what you expect from a team like Kerry. Like Dublin have had it for years, the impact off the bench, the finishers, the players who will even improve the performance. And they've done that today.
Well, there's the full-time whistle. There was just two between them at half-time. Cork very much in it, but they couldn't really cling on for much longer. Jack O'Connor will be delighted with the manner in which his Kerry players put the foot down in the second half and never let it off after that. A lot of Kerry players getting important minutes under their belts. Cork will take the positives from it and hope that they still have a say in this year's championship as it progresses. Full-time here in Páirc Rinn. It's a comfortable win for Kerry. They're in the Munster final. They've beaten Cork by 23 points to 11.
We're back next weekend with round 4 of the Leinster Hurling Championship. Dublin take on Kilkenny in Parnell Park, and we're live on air from 6:30 p.m. But it is Kerry who are through to the Munster final on a scoreline here of 23 points to 11. 12 points the difference between the sides at the end of full time here. And Jim, I mean, it looked, Cork did so well for so long, didn't it? I know we were having a conversation as well, just saying about Cork's fitness, but what did you make of that second half display?
Oh, listen, I thought Cork turned up tonight and they gave it everything they had. I suppose in the second half, the attack slowed down a wee bit. Myself and Peter were speaking off air about Sean Porter's impact in the first half, and in the second half he stayed back and played as the sweeper even when the Cork attacks were developing. And I think they missed that. I think they missed that +1 coming from deep. And then at the other side of the park, I think their setup defensively was very, very good. But I think they give away a lot of frees. And we can question some of that later on, I suppose. But that discipline sort of inside the 45 probably hurt them big time.
Okay, well, just let's look at some of the analysis, Kieran. And I mean, Cork started that second half really positively. Cathal O'Mahony had a really good game.
Yeah, I mentioned him before. Cahill's a super talent. You can just see a couple of examples here. But Cathal will have a shot, just a small bit of space, and he'll turn and hit the scoreboard. So huge point here. He almost replicates it again here, even from further out. So I mean, he's an unbelievable talent. Again, he'll shoot on sight. So he's certainly one to look for in the championship moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, hugely positive as well as one of his championship start coming from that under-20 All-Ireland winning team from a few years ago. But then Kerry, as we kind of, I suppose, expected, Jim, Kerry just kind of started to break away and add that intensity. Subs came on, made a difference. Just take us through some of the main scores that made that difference for Kerry.
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt that they rolled the bench. Paul Geaney here, I think, is in the first clip. He was stepping inside, and that composure that he's shown down through the years and clipping that ball over the bar was a really good score. The next one, I think, was Stephen O'Brien coming from deep, and he'd done this all night long, to be fair to him. He's got a lot of pace, so he has, and he's very, very direct. You can see it here again, asking that question and just popping the ball over the bar. And another man with a huge amount of pace as well as Paddy Clifford, but in this situation, he just picks the ball up here in the pocket and just pops it over the bar. And then the last one is just a touch of class written all over it, you know, Sean O'Shea, jinking and weaving, and just leaves the defender for dead, really, and gets a wee bit of time on the ball and just pops the ball over the bar.
Yeah, and David Clifford, we spoke before the game about him, and Peter just was talking about David Clifford. I mean, He was quiet last year when they met Cork. He was relatively quiet as well, but he had opportunities. That goal chance that we're going to take a look at now. What did you make of his performance?
He had the one opportunity. I thought he was going to sink it. Very well marked. Kevin Flaherty had a great battle, individual battle, and Sean Páirc was never too far away. Every time Kerry was attacking, Páirc had an eye on David Clifford as well. This was the one time that he did get away. You would put your house on it normally, but fantastic goalkeeping. If they really needed to score, maybe he would have. He'd been wishing maybe he would have kept it on the deck. Maybe the only mistake that he didn't make. But Grania, I think, will have bigger performances out of David Clifford as the year progresses.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I'm sure he will. Just looking at other things as well, and just maybe look at some of the refereeing decisions, Jim. What did you make of this? Now, there's been some questions of some of the decisions made by the referee. Just talk us through, and what was your thoughts on these?
Well, there was a couple of ironic cheers from the Cork fans at the very end of the game. This was in the second half, or the first half, sorry, where there was a late hit on Brian Hurley, and then nothing given for that, and that really got under the skin of the Cork supporters and management. And here is a similar situation here from a Kerry point of view, and people are saying very soft free, and it went the other way at a crucial period in the game. And then here, a situation where a free is given, somebody says something and the ball is brought forward. The problem is the ball is brought forward probably 20 metres here.
Jim, I was actually commending the referee for letting the game go in the first half and the physicality. I think he got a number of ones wrong, but each one of those decisions, he was only 10 metres away. His positioning was very good, his fitness levels were good, but absolutely he was sore on Cork for a few key decisions, especially the one on Brian Hurley, because it would have meant that if they had got a free then, they would have been going in 9-8 at half time very much in the game.
And I think we could hear the jeers and the cries. It's 13 metre free, but was being brought up, Kieran, on 20 metres. Is it kind of those subjective to the referee though? Maybe from where we're sitting here, it might have been a 13 metre.
I mean, it definitely was more than 13 metres. But look, I mean, in the heat of the moment, all these decisions are being made. But look, you'd look for every edge you can get. So, if that all of a sudden becomes within shooting range for Sean O'Shea to have a go at the post. So, all these little things count. So, look, at the end of the day, Kerry were a lot stronger throughout the whole game. They were more consistent. Unfortunately, Cork didn't manage to keep up that pace and intensity. A couple of major things. I think Ian Maguire's lack of ability to get up early today had a big impact on the game, and even around the middle, Kerry just dominated. So
just can I ask, when you said they weren't physically able to stay with that, like what are the reasons that they weren't able to stay for the rest of that game?
I think it's a combination of a few reasons. I think, you talked about their physical fitness. Maybe they're not right at the pitch yet. The second thing is that the structure. I mean, they really looked really well defensively today, but sometimes they're caught chasing more than they should need to chase. And that's just simple awareness around the ground. It might be just dropping off, or it might be just handing over a player to a fella that's more dangerous. Really simple stuff like that. But I think that'll grow. They'll start to learn as the championship goes on, hopefully, in the qualifiers.
Just for me, I think the big one for me was the kick out. With 15 minutes on the clock, it was a 1-point game. It ended up 26 kick-outs to Kerry, 12 to Cork. And for me, that's where the game was lost from a Cork point of view. You just can't do that, really. And every one of them was going out the left-hand side, the goalkeeper's left-hand side, and Kerry picked up on that. They flooded the area and they just picked up ball after ball. And you see that run of scores that Kerry got, every one of them came from that area and the kick.
Their bench had a big influence as well, as Cork were beginning to tire. When you have David Moore and Keeney and whatnot, they're doing a few runs out here in front of us. A serious bench moving forward as well, and I don't think Cork had the same impact from their bench.
Very Dublin-esque, as we have seen from Dublin over the past number of years. OK, well, the man of the match was Diarmuid O'Connor. Let's hear from him. He's been speaking with Mike Finnerty.
Diarmuid O'Connor is our Ayr man of the match. Paddy O'Connor is here from Ayr to make the presentation. We'll let you, Kerry men, get that out of the way.
Yes, thanks very much.
Diarmuid, congratulations. Kerry back in a Munster final. A win is a win, but not the sort of game, I'm guessing, that a lot of people were expecting.
No, I suppose, look, we're happy to be back in Munster final now. We've 3 weeks to get ready for whoever we're playing. But look, it was a very tough game, especially in the first half there. They really put it up to us. We knew coming up here it was going to be a really tough atmosphere, and we were going to have to bring our best. And look, thankfully we kind of pushed on the second half and we brought our best. So we're looking forward to the Munster final.
As you said, a big second half performance. Can you take us inside the dressing room at half time? What was said? What was changed?
I suppose, look, we just wanted to tidy up a few things. We felt we were doing well on some aspects of the game, but things like turnovers and our shoot percentage and stuff wasn't really up to scratch. So we wanted to iron them out, and look, thankfully we did, and we put a few scores on the board.
In hindsight, so much expectation that Kerry were going to win this and win this well. Was that an issue? Was that a factor in the first half?
No, I suppose we always knew coming up here it was going to be a tough game. We were under no illusions like Cork every year. Bar last year was just it was a freak thing really. We were under no illusions, and we wanted to come up and put in a performance, and hopefully when we put in that performance that we get to win, and that's the way it turned out.
Looking ahead now to a Munster final, what are the main priorities, the areas you'll have to improve on if you're to win another Munster title?
I suppose, like I said, there are our turnovers up top. We're kind of gifting the ball there early on in the first half, and our shooting percentage probably wasn't high enough, and probably wasn't where we wanted to be. So working the two of them things, I suppose, and hopefully the results will keep the same way.
Diarmuid, well done. You're our Ayr man of the match. Best of luck in the provincial final.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Cheers.
And we're going to get a look at Diarmuid O'Connor now in action. And it led to a score from Kerry where he was fouled, but it came from a turnover, and a very good example of the Kerry defence. We spoke about them before the game, that they were going to have to tighten up at the back. Their shape throughout, Tig Morley, sweeper, keeping an eye on Brian Hurley inside, and in this case, as the move progresses, pressure on the Cork players further out the pitch, but we get a look at what's happening when Brian Hurley comes out to make his run. Not only is he worried and concentrating on the ball, he also sees a sweeper coming sprinting in at him as well. Maybe takes his eye off the ball, but it's that pressure that leads to this turnover. Kerry, left corner back position with the ball, and it's here that you want runners coming at pace. And in this case, we have two runners. We have Gavin White, and when he sees space in front of him, he will go, he will travel. And it's Diarmuid O'Connor from inside the 45. He also takes off here as well, and it's him that ends up winning this free. As the play progresses, Jim spoke about Sean Powder remaining back at all times and not coming forward. And again, you have to give credit to the Cork defence for doing that. This is Powder in there. As you see, he's keeping an eye on the full back, and this is the double sweeper that we spoke about as well. But when you're coming through with the pace that Diarmuid O'Connor has, it's very hard from a stand position. It's very hard to go back, and I think the referee got that one right, and that was a free in for Kerry, and that put Kerry 3 up, and they didn't really look back after that. Kieran spoke about the Cork performance, and there are a number of players that committed, no more so than Ian Maguire in the middle of the pitch, but the heart from Kevin O'Donovan in possession here, and the man beside him, John Cooper, was something else. What I liked about this score was so many players, when they got the ball, would have flicked it over the head of Diarmuid O'Connor. Diarmuid was expecting him to do that. He didn't do that. Little dummy, and he's away. And what I like about this is what John Cooper does. He continues his run, and so many times you've heard me talking about the decoy runner. What happens here, you have the two Kerry defenders follow the run of the decoy runner, whilst this man spots it, knows what's happening, he holds on to the ball and kicks over a great score from a Cork point of view. Unfortunately for Cork, they only kicked 4 points in the second half, and a lot of the scores were of a very high quality. But from a Kerry point of view, yes, they've tightened up. They appear to be more physical, not just in the full back line, but all over the pitch. And they're going to be a force without doubt moving forward. OK,
well, I'm sure there is a happy Jack O'Connor in the dressing room. He's been speaking with Mike Finnerty.
Nobody knows better than yourself. Championship football is all about getting the result. Overall, you pleased?
Yeah, happy enough. Look, we expected a battle, and by and large that's what we got for at least 50 minutes of the game. I think the game changed in the second half because we got on top of their kick out and started controlling possession, and I think David Moran helped us in that regard. He's very strong in the air, and I thought that changed the momentum of the game, and we were comfortable enough in the end, but for a long time Cork really put it up to us.
When Cork were causing your team problems in that first half, where were the issues? Where were the key areas that you had to try and address?
Look, we obviously turned over the ball in our forward line too much in the first half. I think we with something like 7 turnovers, and that was Cork were living off of that, and that's what we said at half time, that we just stopped being foolish and loose with the ball, and basically stopped giving them easy possession in their own defence, because they had a lot of men back and they were able to run the ball, and they were winning frees in our scoring zone down at the far end then. So I think we addressed that at half time, and like I said earlier, we got more primary ball in the middle of the field.
What do you learn from a game like this, from a test like that?
It remains to be seen, you know, it remains to be seen. This was never going to be an easy game. I mean, anytime you come up here to a tight enough venue with you know, a full house, it's going to be a difficult game. We haven't played a game for 5 weeks. We didn't even play a challenge game, so we expected a bit of rust. But like, from here on in, you know, no more excuses. We'll need to be more fluent the next day.
Do you feel, with this win under your belt, with a game under your belt now, coping with the expectation of being favourites to win the All-Ireland, of being favourites to win a Munster title, will that be maybe a bit easier to carry?
Because of what?
You've got the win tonight, the performance tonight.
Look, we don't take a whole pile of notice of favouritism or anything like that. We just play the game in front of us, and we prepared well enough for today's game. We expected a good battle. That's what we got for 50 minutes. We move on. We look forward to 3 weeks' time.
Jack, well done.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's certainly playing down Kerry's chances there, Jim. What did you make of that?
He loves those questions, doesn't he? Listen, I actually don't think they were foolish in attack. I think Cork were very well set up, and I think Kerry struggled to break them down. And I think in the bigger picture nationally, I think teams will look at that Cork laid down a foundation today in terms of making it really difficult. You know, they man-marked David Clifford inside. They doubled up on him with the sweeper. The other sweeper covered the middle with the runners coming down the flanks, and then they covered the bodies around that. The problem for Cork was when they turned it over, took the ball into contact. You know, but in terms of the overall context of the game, I think if Cork ended up 50-50 on the kickouts, we would have had that game would have came down to the wire. And up to 50 minutes, Kerry couldn't break them down. So for me, that's a big one. And then we spoke about David Clifford before the game, the attention that he's going to get, and he got it tonight. And that's another situation. And Cork didn't push up fully on the kick out, and so we don't have to know the answer to that. So those three things are still, them question marks are still sitting over Kerry, in my opinion.
I want to move it on to Donegal and Cavan very briefly, but just Kieran, just to get your thoughts just in terms of Cork now into the qualifiers. You know, a lot of positives there tonight. Are you in a happier position now after seeing that Cork's performance, or things have improved? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's a lot of kind of green shoots there. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing this Cork team with a fully fit Maguire. We all know he had an issue with his hand, but also Powter back at full fitness. You know, you saw what he added to Cork's attack when he was on the pitch. So I'm looking forward to them really building on this, using the momentum, but also learning from the mistakes. You know, it's important that you learn from that too. So no, overall quite positive. Obviously the result is very, very disappointing. I'm sure the lads will be devastated, but it's just about getting back on the horse now and focusing on what it brings next. Okay, well, Donegal and Cavan, as I said, that's the big game tomorrow. Galway, I know, and Leitrim are playing as well, but in Ulster, Donegal and Cavan, I mean, how's that going to go, Peter?
Yeah, well, everybody's presuming that Donegal's really going to be fired up for this after what happened in the Ulster final a couple of years ago, where they were hot favourites and Cavan had different ideas. I think that's going to hurt Donegal a lot, and their main men against Armagh really stood up, Murphy and McBrearty, Ryan McHugh, and I think if those men maintain that sort of form, I think they're going to be very hard to beat tomorrow. Yeah, would you be confident? I asked that question to Peter last week, remember? So are you confident about Donegal, Jim?
Oh, listen, the Ulster Championship, it's the Ulster Championship. Our lads done very well the last day. They played really well, they controlled the game really well, and they got the scores when they need them. Our Cavan are very big side physically, very big side physically. So again, like today, it's important that Donegal don't take that ball into contact. But we have really good pace coming from the half-back line in particular. And if we can keep doing that, keep moving the ball quickly and get Paddy on the ball inside, I think we should be okay.
So that's a confident yes.
Well, yes.
Yes. Okay, all right. Looking ahead then tomorrow, let's bring you the fixtures that are coming up. Roscommon booked their spot in the Connacht final last weekend, but will it be Galway or Leitrim who will join them there? Throw-in in Pearse Stadium is at 3:30 p.m. Donegal and Cavan then, as we mentioned, they're hoping to reach an Ulster final. They meet in Clones at 4 p.m. And in the hurling championship, Tipperary need a result against the All-Ireland hurling champions Limerick as they meet in round 3 of the Munster hurling championship. Throw-in there is at 2 p.m. We are back then next weekend with a Dublin and Kilkenny clash in round 4 of the Leinster hurling championship. Throw-in from Parnell Park is at 7 o'clock, and we're live on air from 6:30 p.m. But Sin, that is it from us from Páirc Rinn today. My thanks to Peter, Jim and to Kieran for joining us this afternoon. It's Kerry who are through to the Munster final. Until next weekend, from all of us here, Slán, and take care.